History and hysteria inside the walls of Sporting Park. MLS Cup dreams have come true in Sporting Blue.
The Sporting KC Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB is brought to you by your Midwest Ford dealers. Visit them at your MidwestFordDealers.com. And by the Missouri Lottery. Play it forward with the Missouri Lottery.
Coming up on the show, two big guests for you this evening. Sporting KC captain Matt Besler joins us to assess this weekend's opponents. And from one All-Star to another, Montreal's Jack McInerney calls in to talk about his recent move to the Impact. And as always, we'll cast our eye over the latest headlines around MLS. Callum Williams here, the voice of Sporting KC. Joining me, as always, Andy Edwards of MLSsoccer.com and the Time Warner Cable Sports Network now as well. Andy, good evening. How are you?
I can't fit it all in my Twitter bio, so how do we have infinite
it's a
time on the
as
radio?
well, actually.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Hello.
And Carter Augustine from SKC TV.
Hey, how are you, Cal?
Wonderful. We're live on Sports Radio 810 WHB and again on 810 WHB TV. They liked us last week, so they thought they'd put the Three Ugly Ducklings back on the television. So do tune in, 810WHBTV.com, and do give us your view as well. Tweet us at Cal Williams SKC, at Andy Ed MLS, at El Jefe Augustine, or give us a call, 913-3810-810. That's 913-3810-810. No game for Sporting KC last weekend, but let's concentrate on the headline that came out of last week, shall we? Ike Opara and the injury. It was announced last week. He's out for the season with an ankle injury. This is somewhat of a blow for Sporting KC, Andy, and it does leave a couple of question marks, doesn't it?
Well, it's not somewhat of a blow for Sporting Kansas City. It's a massive blow for Sporting Kansas City. Ike Opara in 2013 was arguably, and I would make the case against any other player in the league, he was the best kind of third center back, backup center back of any player in the league. In 2013, he starts 15 games, and in those 15 games, I think the number was they conceded 10 or 11 goals in those 15 games. He was so incredibly solid, especially for being his first season in Kansas City after coming over from San Jose. And it's just a huge luxury knowing that if you have Aurelian Collin, who sometimes picks up yellow cards and has yellow card accumulation suspensions. You have Matt Besler, who's a part of the U.S. national team, and he misses a game here and there for camp or for a friendly or World Cup qualifier. Just knowing that you have Ike Opara, those two players to step in, it was a huge luxury for Peter Vermes and really put, I think, a lot of fans at ease knowing that Ike Opara could step in seamlessly, and there was really no drop-off from those two. So it's going to be a challenge going forward, I think, filling that role, because we do know Besler's gone for a month and a half. World Cup camp's going to be early May. It could be until late June before he's back. So, they've got a lot of work to do.
Now, joining us on the line is a man, once again, anchoring the best defence in Major League Soccer. It's club captain and US international Matt Besler. Matt, good evening. How are you?
Good. What's up, guys?
We're very good. Thank you for joining us, Matt. Really appreciate it. So before we get into things, the off week for Sporting KC, how's it been from a training perspective, personally for you?
It's been great. The time off has been nice on the body. It feels like, from the first 5 weeks of the season, we didn't really get a full day of training in. Guys were off doing their own thing, recovering from injuries. Guys were doing regen, trying to get ready for their next game. So we've had this full week to actually train as a team, and it's been nice.
We were speaking about Ike Opara before you came on the air with us, Matt. How much of a blow is it to have him out for as long as he is out?
It's a big hit for us. There's no denying that. Ike was a very important part of the team, and I think he was really starting to kind of find his form and make a name for himself. So it was really unfortunate to see him go down, and I actually spoke with him this afternoon. He had a surgery this morning, and from what the doctors had said, they told him that the surgery went very smoothly, and I think that's good news for everyone.
Matt, in terms of the season so far, obviously, as you mentioned, there's been a lot of games that came really quick and really fast early on. How do you assess some of the results early on in the season? Obviously, going out of Champions League, maybe dropping a point here or there in the league, but altogether, still sitting third place in the Eastern Conference, right in the mix of things where you need to be at this time of year.
Yeah, I mean we're going to be fine. The frustrating part about where we're at right now is when you look at every game individually. We had chances to win every single game. I mean, literally the 5 games we played, we probably should have won every single game. And so the fact that we haven't gotten as many points as we probably would have liked. That part of it's frustrating, but I think it's important to understand that we're only 5 games in, and if you look at the last 3 years and look at our first 10 games, 3 years ago we were in last place with 1 win. We ended up winning the Eastern Conference. 2 years ago we started out winning our first 7 games. We ended up winning the Eastern Conference. And then last year, I think we started out 3-3-4, so exactly 500. And we didn't win the Eastern Conference, but we all know how that season ended up. So I think it's important not to look into the results too much too early.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, you're right. It's early, and it's also a season that has the World Cup. Is there somewhat of a palpable feeling that the World Cup is affecting this season at all? I mean, for instance, Benny Feilhaber seems to be really starting the season on fire. Are there any other guys, or does the World Cup kind of change things this season?
Well, I mean, for us, you got Benny potentially in the mix, and then you got me and Graham. So, it obviously affects our team. It's going to be a period of time where a bunch of different guys are going to have to step up. Hopefully some young guys can get some minutes. And hopefully, 2 or 3 guys can really step up. So, when me and Graham come back, possibly Benny, we're even a stronger team than we were, and that will help us later on in the season.
Matt, let's focus on this weekend's opponent, Montreal Impact. Obviously, a new strike force for them at the moment, Marco Di Vaio and Jack McInerney. That meant a new formation for them. For the first time in their MLS history, they played a flat 4-4-2. Has that hampered the preparation at all?
It's going to be different. They're actually very similar players. You got Jack Mac, who's obviously younger, but they both like to kind of hide behind the defense and really tiptoe that offside line. They both, will take chances with runs in behind, and so I see them as very similar players, very smart players. But it's going to be a little different having them both on the field. Because when you got one guy out there, you can kind of keep your eye on him and you know where he's at. But when you have 2, it's going to be a little bit more difficult.
And what about for yourself personally as well, Matt? Because the one thing I noticed watching Montreal's last game was how much Marco Di Vaio was forced to drop and play off the shoulder of Jack McInerney. Is it going to be one of those instances where one of yourself or Aurélien Collin has to decide who goes and who stays?
Yeah, I mean that's basically the key. We don't want to just sit back and play 3 versus 1 in the back, 4 versus 1. If Di Vaio's dropping into the midfield to get the ball, we want to limit his touches. He's a playmaker. He loves getting the ball. So if that means me or Colin stepping up and pressuring him, that's what we're going to have to do. It could fall into the hands of Lawrence Olam too. He's going to be in there, and if Di Vaio comes in too deep, we're not going to follow him all the way. We're going to pass him on the low.
And just finally, Matt, before we let you go, we're going to concentrate a little bit here before we go to commercial break on Eric Palmer-Brown. Obviously only 16 years of age, off with the USA U20 team. How much have you seen of him, and how much do you rate this young kid?
EPB he's a really talented kid. It's sometimes when you sit back and you look at him and you realize he's only 16, it's pretty amazing. it's one thing for a teenager to kind of come into a team and be, an outside mid or a forward, and he gets minutes here or there, and he kind of touches the ball and passes. But, this EPB is a center back, and so he's right in the mix of everything. Physically, he's in the plays, and he holds his own. That's been the most impressive part for me, is that in practices he's out there holding his own. I think he still has a lot to learn, but the good part about him is that he's really eager. And so who knows what happens. I think there's probably going to be a chance where we're going to get to see him in a few games, and I hope he's ready. I think he will be.
Matt Besler, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate the insight.
All right, see you guys.
Thanks, Matt.
That was Matt Besler of Sporting KC and the US men's national team. So before we do go to break, Eric Palmer-Brown. We mentioned obviously Ike Opara out for 6 months, season-ending injury. It leaves Sporting KC with Besler and Collin. Lawrence Olam could be used as an option at centre-back. He played there for Orlando City for many years. But Eric Palmer-Brown, at the age of just 16 years of age, from what I've seen of him in training, looks very disciplined for his age. But are we on the brink of seeing him potentially earning some first-team minutes here?
Let's also remember Lawrence Olam started at center back in a Cup final for Sporting Kansas City, the 2012 U.S. Open Cup. He started at center back. Aurelian Collin was out through suspension in that game, so he's obviously got that kind of experience. That if he's the player that Peter Vermes calls upon, like he's not Matt Besler, he's not Aurelian Collin, but there's not a huge drop off. I don't think he's like Opara either. And as far as Eric Palmer-Brown, it's interesting. How early can you really rely on a 16-year-old? We can say that he's disciplined in training. He knows his place. He knows where to be on the field. He doesn't try and do too much, but that's in training. You get out there on the field at Sporting Park and you've got 20,000 fans and the crowd is going, and then you kind of realize, whoa, I'm 16 and I'm out here, going, say, for instance, up against Robbie Keane, or I'm going up against Thierry Henry. You probably forget a little bit of, that discipline, where I'm supposed to be playing within yourself. And so it's definitely tricky. But, if there's anybody, I think any coach in Major League Soccer that will know how to handle that kind of a situation, it's Peter Vermes, as a guy who was, a star at that position himself during his playing days. And so I would imagine Eric Palmer-Brown's in pretty good hands with Peter Vermes. Aurelian Collin, Matt Besler ahead of him as well.
Carter, you share the same views as Andy?
Yeah, I definitely do. I would caution everyone, not to obviously get their hopes too high for a 16-year-old to come in the league, especially if you look at over the history of other leagues as well. Youngsters coming into the fold, it seems like attackers usually have a better time as youngsters because it's more instinctual and it's more driving towards the goal, pace, that type of stuff. With defenders, it's all about positioning, and that's why you see so many defenders get better and better and better until they're around 30 or so. And so for a center half to come in at 16, I think it will be a tough task. But obviously, the kid is rated by a ton of people, and I mean he's played in back-to-back games now for the U20s in that tournament. So he's going to be a special talent, and one to be really excited for. Maybe see him in an Open Cup game, and I agree. I think Olam will definitely be slotted in ahead of him when Besler leaves for the World Cup.
Just wait for school to get out for the summer, then he can play.
We'll keep our eyes on Eric Palmer-Brown. Next up on the Sporting KC show, we'll feature all the latest gossip around the world of Major League Soccer.
This is Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hi folks, this is Heidi with Bill George's Olathe Subaru. More and more people are discovering the value of a Subaru. Symmetrical all-wheel drive, industry-leading residual values, great gas mileage, and world-renowned reliability. Plus, Subarus are some of the safest vehicles on the road today, like a new Subaru Forester 2.5i. Recently awarded Motor Trend's 2014 Sport Utility of the Year. The new Forester is fuel efficient, functional, and fun to drive. Or how about a new 2014 Subaru XV Crosstrek 2.0i Premium? Up to 33 miles per gallon on the highway and starting at just $21,995. Just last week, we had a customer trade out of a 2011 Honda Accord to a new Subaru Legacy. Why? Because of the symmetrical all-wheel drive. Ice, snow, or slippery roads, nothing keeps you stuck to the road like a Subaru. Stop by and check out our huge selection of new Subarus or visit us online at OlatheSubaru.com. And when you want the best new car value on the market, think Olathe Subaru. Bill George's Olathe Subaru, where you always get more for less.
All prices plus tax, title, license, and admin fees. Cross-check model code ERA-01. See dealer for details. If your girlfriend has her way tonight, it's another rental of Part 9 of the Sundown Saga. In this installment, 2 warring werewolf clans continue to fight for the hand of a beautiful yet moody vampire princess. It makes no sense to you. After all, there's a game on somewhere. And right now, any game will do. Luckily, there's someone else who will watch the game. A little brother. He's cool. He's fun. He's not a vampire. Visit BigBrothersBigSistersKC.org today and change 2 lives, his and yours.
Ford is taking the EcoBoost Challenge coast to coast, asking people like you to test drive Ford versus our leading competitors.
We want to find out which vehicle you prefer, and may the best car win.
Let's do this. I've never driven a Ford before, and I'm impressed.
They're experiencing the power and efficiency of available EcoBoost engine technology.
Wow! This car can go! It blew the competition away for me. Ford is totally on my radar now.
Get into the EcoBoost Challenge at your local Ford dealer and get ready to get floored. That's right, during the EcoBoost Challenge at your Midwest Ford dealers, see for yourself why Ford is a step above the competition. Plus, for a limited time, you'll get big cash back, low APR financing, and great lease offers on Ford's full line of fuel-sipping cars, trucks, and SUVs. Don't miss out. Go online to yourmidwestforddealers.com, then visit your Midwest Ford dealer to take the EcoBoost Challenge today. Not all buyers will qualify. Incentives vary by model. See dealer for complete details.
Fantasy baseball's back, and our listeners are winning huge cash at DraftKings.com, America's favorite one-day fantasy sports site. Like Sam, he won $100,000, his first time ever playing. Serious.
What?
DraftKings is one-day fantasy sports, so no.
Yeah, I'll find some.
Just instant cash payouts. This week, DraftKings has another huge tourney with thousands in cash prizes, and our listeners get free entry. Enter WHB at DraftKings.com, but hurry, free spots are going quick. That's WHB at DraftKings.com.
Hey, it's Lebo here, and with the weather warming up, I've got a solution for you if you've got a room in your house that doesn't quite cool properly. Check out KeepKCCool.com. You can learn all about Mitsubishi's ductless air conditioners there. You know, sometimes in my neighborhood, we like to watch a little baseball in the garage. One of these things would really help take the edge off out there. These Mitsubishis are really easy to install, and they're at least 40% more efficient than traditional units. Plenty more info at KeepKCCool.com. That's KeepKCCool.com. Check it out and learn more about Mitsubishi's ductless air conditioning units.
Hello again, everybody. You know how I love to play golf at Shoal Creek in the Northland. I've got to tell you, I was able to convince some of my buddies to drive 35 minutes, and they are ready to come back. We had one heck of a time. It's the second-rated public golf course in the state of Missouri. Brand new club carts, each of which is equipped with a state-of-the-art GPS system. Make a tee time today at shoalcreekgolf.com. 816-407-7242.
Coach!
All right, I've only got time for a few questions. You?
Coach, who do you thank for today's win?
Myself, and the playbook.
Some are calling the win luck.
Well, then they've never played a game with 122 chances to win.
Play the new Lucky Sevens playbook from the Missouri Lottery. It's a book of 6 scratchers tickets with a top prize of $250,000.
You?
Any advice to the players?
Yeah, go buy the Lucky Sevens playbook.
Every ticket gives back to education, so play it forward with the Missouri Lottery.
With 3 8-10 zones in Kansas City, there are plenty of great places to watch baseball, both home and away. No matter your sport, no matter your team, 8-10 Zone is the place to be. The best sports bars in Kansas City feature different specials every day. Get a better view of the replays than the umpires in New York. 8-10 Zone in Town Center Plaza at 119th and Row, Lee Summit at 50 and Chipman, and at Harrah's North Kansas City Casino. Baseball's in full swing and your game is on at 8-10 Zone.
Looking for a reliable plumber you can trust that does quality work and will get the job done right the first time on time? Call Plumbers of Local 8 at 816-363-8888. For reliable contractors like Lexington Plumbing, CNC Mechanical, or Pryor Mechanical, Plumbers of Local 8 technicians are all accredited and licensed professionals with years of experience and education. If you're in the market for a professional plumber that is licensed and insured, then contact the experts at Plumbers Local 8, 816-363-8888.
Here we go.
After the party, it's the Waffle House. If you ever been here, you know what I'm talking about. Where people don't dance, all they do is
Sporting KC Show live on Sports Radio 810 WHB and 810WHBTV.com. We'll talk about Atlanta coming into MLS a little.
You got to let that go
on.
longer next time, Cal.
Yeah.
You got to let that go.
Our producer Rob giving us the kind gesture there. Thank you very much indeed. Miley Cyrus not performing tonight in Kansas City, but don't worry, we are. We've got lots to talk about in terms of Major League Soccer. FC Dallas 2, Seattle Sounders 3. Again, Clint Dempsey grabbing the headlines. Now 6 goals in 6 for him. As a US men's national team fans, this is obviously very encouraging, but just as MLS fans, surely this is really good to watch.
Well, if it wasn't for that darn 4-4 game last week against Portland, we'd be saying this might be MLS game of the year, this 3-2 game from the weekend, and lo and behold, it's Seattle involved in both of them. They're at that point of the season now where they've had enough games together. Finally, it's been so long, or it felt like so long, I guess, at the end of 2013 after Clint Dempsey came over, and he just struggled so bad that it felt like it was like years and years and years since he had scored a real goal, a big goal, a meaningful goal. And he goes on loan over to Fulham during the offseason. We're just like, man, when is this team going to get a little bit of chemistry down, and when are they going to really gel as a unit? Well, the answer was week 5 of the 2014 season. Clint Dempsey hat trick at Portland. Clint Dempsey 2 goals again the next week at Dallas, including the game winner in the 85th minute. I mean, he's just on fire right now. And then, this is why Seattle went out and spent that money to bring him back to Major League Soccer. And for everybody that said, oh, well, Clint Dempsey's past it. Clint Dempsey is a flop in MLS. They wasted that money. No. Sorry. I mean, this is Clint Dempsey. This is what we expected when he came back, and hopefully, this form, fingers crossed, as a U.S. national team fan, for the next 2, 3, 4 months, it just rolls right on.
Yeah, that game winner that he scored, that reminded me a lot. That was like vintage Clint Dempsey right there. He gathers it at the top of the box, beats a man, spreads it out wide, and then that charging run to the 6. I mean, obviously, what comes to mind is the Donovan goal against Algeria, where Dempsey crashed in and got it saved by the goalie. But I mean, how many times have we seen that in England for Fulham? And it was just vintage Dempsey, and it's really exciting to see those type of
Dempsey
runs.
Wanted that ball, and nobody else was going to get to it, and that's the mindset that I feel like he has right now, and he didn't have that in 2013. He was just kind of out there, and he was trying to fit into a team, whereas now the team is fit around him, and if there's a loose ball or a ball being crossed into the box, everybody on that team knows that's Dempsey's ball. He's going to go get it. And it's just the mentality that he has. And he's that's what puts him on a different level as a player as well. He has that mentality.
It's quite interesting at this stage of the season, knowing the World Cup is only, 58 days away, and you've got some of the US national team players playing out of their skin in MLS. We're talking about Dempsey, Bradley, Maurice Adu started very well for Philadelphia Union, and of course our very own Benny Feilhaber. But what about that goal, the first goal for Clint Dempsey against FC Dallas? A stunning strike, wasn't it?
Yeah, by the way, come on, join the pack, Landon Donovan. When was the last time you saw Clint Dempsey hit a free kick that didn't either go straight into the wall or 20 rows into the stands? That was a great... I'd never seen Clint Dempsey really hit a free kick like that. He had some bend on it. He had some dip on it. Got it just under the bar. I mean, it's the confidence. It is nothing but confidence right now going through Clint Dempsey. And he said after the game, he just kind of laughed it off and said, well, I'm always trying to get on and take free kicks. He's having fun right now, and he was not having any fun at all. In 2013, after he signed, there was so much scrutiny and so much pressure. He could not enjoy playing this game, and now, you can tell, he's got a smile on his face again, and that's a good Clint Dempsey.
We'll move on. DC United 1, New York Red Bulls 0. Mike Petke's Red Bulls yet to win this season. What's going wrong there in Harrison, New Jersey?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to give credit to DC United. I mean, that goal, that's one of my favorite corner set pieces out there, the near post flick on to the back post, and executed perfectly. But yeah, you watch this game, and how many chances did the Red Bulls have? I mean, especially in the second half, they were almost camped out in DC United's box. I mean, Sam missed a really great opportunity. Johnny Steele missed a really great opportunity. You saw that exasperated look from Henry like 17 times in the second half, and they seem to be heading in the wrong direction. I think if you're starting Louis Ndula every game, I think that's a red flag for me.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about the Red Bulls. They're old. They're getting relegated, and they're done. They're done. I want to talk about DC though. What DC did in this game, really, and I think a lot of people, kind of push it aside and say, oh, well, it's New York. They're playing terribly right now. DC have learned in the last 2 games how to grind out a couple of results against, sure, not good teams, and the performances haven't been great, but they've ground out results, and that's something that when you bring so many new pieces into a team like they did in the offseason, it's not going to gel immediately. I mean, Eddie Johnson's still doing absolutely nothing for this team. And until that gets turned around, they're not going to be a good team, but they're grinding out results. And that's something that, Ben Olsen can be fairly proud of his guys for. It's something that's going to save Ben Olsen's job for a couple more weeks as well. And so I'm pretty sure he's pretty thankful for that. DC are a team you don't really want to play right now because they can do that. And Columbus, who they have this week, that's a trap game for Columbus because they've looked so good so early in the season. On the road at Crew Stadium, you know what DC are doing. They're bunkering. Crew's going to have 75% of possession, and they're probably going to do absolutely nothing with it because they're going to have 10 guys behind the ball.
Yeah, you look at who DC brought in this offseason, and they're veterans. It seems like a lot of the guys kind of feel maybe cast off by their old teams. I mean, most of them veterans with good careers. Davey Arnaud, perfect example.
Bobby Boswell,
Sean
Franklin.
Espindola.
Jeff Park as well, some good players.
They did really well, I think, in bringing in veterans who still had a lot left to give. So it will be an intriguing story. And like Andy said, they're learning how to win. So I think a good DC United is only good for this league. I mean, obviously growing up, and you remember it was just pretty much all DC United. So it's good to see them at least better than they were last year.
I know you don't want to talk about New York, but we've got to stick with New York for the time being. It's been reported in the city of New York that New York City FC are to play at Yankee Stadium for the first 3 years. Of course, the New York Yankees and Manchester City in England co-owning New York City FC. This has been greeted with mixed reaction here. There was a suggestion by a national writer in the soccer world that ground sharing with the Red Bulls could have been an option. For me, that's an absolute no. But Andy, what did you think about this when you originally saw that it was going to be a thing?
Yeah, I don't think there should have been any mixed reaction at all. I think since May of last year when this team was announced, we knew this is what was going to happen. People acting surprised now haven't been paying attention whatsoever. They don't understand, the landscape of the politics and everything that go into getting a stadium built in New York City. I mean, it's incredibly tough. It took the Jets and the Giants, $2 billion NFL teams, working together, 10 years to build a new stadium. And for anybody that thought that New York City FC was going to come in and just get a stadium done in 12 months time, get a deal done, and then start building. I mean, it's just absolute lunacy. And so, this is what was going to happen. The thing is, with the Red Bull thing, they can't do that, and it has nothing to do with sharing a stadium with the Red Bulls. The fact is, since they've come in from day one, 5 boroughs, 1 city has been, their kind of motto. Since the day the expansion was announced. And so they can't go out to New Jersey because that goes against everything that they've preached they're going to be. We're going to be the city's team, and, we're a team for New York City. And, they've trashed the name of the Red Bulls without ever saying their name by saying, well, we're the team for New York City. And so if they were going to go out there, it's just complete hypocrisy. And they would have been, lambasted for it for forever, probably. So it's not an ideal situation, but I think of all the options that they have, it's probably the best. It's it's an okay option in a bunch of pretty bad ones, actually.
A couple of issues I've got with it, Carter. For me, how are they going to work around the MLB season, which is pretty much in full swing at the same time as MLS? And the Yankee Stadium holds 45, 50,000. Say, for example, they get 20,000 a game. Is that really a success? I'm not convinced it is.
I mean, the attendance question, I think I'll wait until they actually have a soccer stadium to see as far as that goes. I do have concerns about lining up with the baseball schedule, especially considering the MLS will be going deep into October, and if that field gets messed up at all, that outfield, I mean, obviously it's not as important in baseball to have a nice surface, but it does help. So if that happens to affect the Yankees, could that negatively affect the perception of the soccer team? That's the one thing I'd like to think about. They said that they were expecting this and that they're ready. I mean, that there's been interviews galore with their grounds crew manager saying that they can turn it around pretty quickly now because it was designed for that, concerts and that type of stuff. But yeah, in the end, I mean, at a baseball stadium far away, it's not going to be ideal, as Andy said. I mean, what else they have to do? I mean, what other options do they have is the problem.
Yeah, just wait until the first Yankees $200 million player, gets his baseball cleat caught in a divot from a soccer game, and listen to sports radio in New York City the next day, and then you'll really find out what what the city of New York thinks of the co-ownership and the inhabitants of Yankee Stadium.
This is the thing for me, chaps, is that it just doesn't look good for a team that's meant to be a marquee
yes,
team in a major market for Major League Soccer as well. And this isn't the only thing as well. We'll move on to Atlanta as well. You know, a major announcement tomorrow afternoon, expected to announce the new MLS team in Atlanta. The commissioners there and several other MLS stars are there. Talk of a new 65,000-seater stadium where the team will play, as well as the Atlanta Falcons. Again, there are issues here, and again, the turf comes into question here, doesn't it, as well, Andy?
Yeah, you know, we always say, well, Portland's got really good turf, and if players have to play on it, they would prefer to play on that one. Well, try telling that to Tommy McNamara, rookie for Chivas USA, who no contact, just running and stopping and cutting on Saturday night, probably did his ACL up on that turf there. There's a reason that players don't like to play on turf. I don't care whether it's, you know, the latest technology and it's supposed to be really great for players still don't want to play soccer on that kind of a surface. And so, yeah, that part of it is frustrating. The stadium situation with Atlanta, again, it sucks that you know, we're talking about these big cities, these big markets that we want to be getting excited about, you know, having an MLS team come to town, but we really can't because the stadium situation's, you know, not ideal, to put it mildly. But I think in a perfect world, yeah, you want to be in Atlanta. You know, it's the biggest city in the Southeast, and you know, it's. I know it's college football country, and that's really big down there. It's going to be tough to compete, but it's a fairly international city as well. And I you know, anytime they've had women's national team games down there, they've done very, very well. So I think they'll be okay in Atlanta. I don't think it's going to be a slam dunk or a home run like Portland or Seattle or Vancouver or even Orlando City. There's just not that kind of organic feel to it with a lower division team coming up with the fan base already in existence. That's probably the biggest gripe that I have with some of these new teams is they're just starting from nothing, where we've seen the success, the model, if at all possible, should be, you know, those teams that have come up from, say, USL or NASL.
We'll try and remain positive here in terms of the Atlanta situation, Carter.
You're not allowed to be positive about MLS expansion. That's like the number one rule.
Arthur Blank is notoriously known for having a lot of money and has spent it in NFL. Do you see it being the same in MLS?
He seems to be an interested owner and one that would definitely be invested into the team and how the team would be doing. So on that side, yeah, I think he will be a good owner. I do think that. This stadium is my biggest question. And I mean, maybe we're harping on it, but Garber's talked about some type of downsizing technology that will be unique and it's, quote, the only one of its kind anywhere in the world. So I'm curious what that means. Do they take out seats? I don't know. That surely cannot mean it'll be a tarp situation like in Vancouver or wherever have you. So I'm interested to see how they bring it down from 65,000 seats to a more comfortable and cozy and atmospheric feel. So I'm really curious to see these stadium designs. But in the end, I think Arthur Blank's definitely going to be a good owner.
He's wanted an MLS team for years as well.
Yes,
so
yes,
it's not like he's got this new idea. Oh, hey, I'm going to do this. No, he's been interested for a while. So I think the right what's the word? The right his motivation for doing it. Yeah, I think it's in the right place.
We'll keep an eye on expansion in Atlanta. Next up, though, on the Sporting KC show, it's all about the weekend's opponents, Montreal Impact, as we chat with their forward, Jack McInerney.
50,000 watts of sports talk. Sports Radio 810.
This is a shorter break, so it doesn't sound a whole long.
It's taking the EcoBoost Challenge coast to coast, asking people like you to test drive Ford versus our leading competitors.
We want to find out which vehicle you prefer, and may the best car win.
Let's do this. I've never driven a Ford before, and I'm impressed.
They're experiencing the power and efficiency of available EcoBoost engine technology.
Wow! This car can go! It blew the competition away from me. Ford is totally on my radar now.
Get into the EcoBoost Challenge at your local Ford dealer and get ready to get floored. That's right, during the EcoBoost Challenge at your Midwest Ford dealers, see for yourself why Ford is a step above the competition. Plus, for a limited time, you'll get big cash back, low APR financing, and great lease offers on Ford's full line of fuel-sipping cars, trucks, and SUVs. Don't miss out. Go online to yourMidwestFordDealers.com, then visit your Midwest Ford dealer to take the EcoBoost Challenge today. Not all buyers will qualify. Incentives vary by model. See dealer for complete details.
Books are a world of possibilities. They let the imagination dream bigger. They excite, entertain, educate. And now there's a book that does all that in just 6 pages. The Lucky Sevens Playbook from the Missouri Lottery. With 6 scratchers tickets, a top prize of $250 grand, and 122 chances to win, it's sure to be a bestseller.
All right, here we go, guys.
This book gives back to education, helping Missouri students make big dreams come true. So play it forward with the Missouri Lottery.
Welcome back into the final segment of the Sporting KC show, live on Sports Radio 810 WHB and 810 TV. WHB.com. Callum Williams, the voice of Sporting KC, alongside Andy Edwards and Carter Augustine. Sporting KC is taking on Montreal Impact this weekend, and joining us on Sports Radio 810 WHB is the new man in Montreal. After 12 goals for Philadelphia Union last year, he was traded to Frank Klopas' men just last week and did what he does best, scoring on his Impact debut. Now this weekend, he goes up against the best defence in Major League Soccer. Welcome to the show, Jack McInerney.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, Jack. Really, really appreciate it. Talk us through the last 10 days in your life then. It must have been a strange situation. You seemed fairly comfortable in Philadelphia, and the next thing you know, you're scoring on your debut for Montreal Impact.
Yeah, I was in Philly. I mean, this was my 5th year, and I just came in one morning like every other day, and I was told I was traded. So I talked to Montreal, and they gave me that weekend to really kind of just let it sink in, and I came up on the next Monday and played the next weekend.
And obviously, as we said, scored on your Montreal Impact debut against Chicago Fire. What did that mean to you to get yourself off to a good start?
Obviously, I mean, it meant a lot, just to really start off on the right foot with the club, and especially with the game being at home and in front of the home fans, just for them to kind of, latch on to you and really accept you with the new club. It meant a lot.
Jack, obviously, it's an emotional time being traded as a professional athlete, and it's not something that soccer players are used to in other leagues around the world. Just talk to us a little bit about, kind of those emotions, the shock maybe when you found out, and how settling into Montreal has been so far.
Yeah, I was definitely shocked, going in. Like I said, I just went in there like every other day, and this being my first trade, I didn't really know what to expect or how it would go, but Montreal's been they've been good to me. They've been taking care of me, and they've been making it easy, especially the transition into another country to play. And I'm excited to be here right now. And the club is struggling right now, but it's still early season, and hopefully I can come in and just do what I've done in the past.
You think you'll learn a little bit of something playing alongside and training every day with Marco Di Vaio?
If I don't, then that's probably a problem. I mean, he's obviously he scored 20 goals last year, so he's doing something right. And he's played in Europe and in some of the top leagues around the world. So definitely, that was one of the most exciting. That was one of my first thoughts when I was told I was traded here, and it's one of the most exciting things for me to come here and be able to learn from him.
Jack, what about Frank Klopas, the manager at Montreal Impact? What has he said to you so far? What's he expecting from you this season?
He just said really come in and learn, and you get a good opportunity to learn under a player like Di Vaio, and that Montreal has been trying to get me for a while, and it's always good. You want to come and play for a club that wants you and that want you to be a part of their team. So he just said really just come in and take it one day at a time, and try to learn things, and when you get on the field, make an impact.
Obviously a big opponent for Montreal Impact this weekend, away to the champion Sporting KC. What's been the approach over the last few days?
Really just trying to really put the first couple games of the season behind us and learn from some of the mistakes the club has made. We've given up some set piece goals, and we really in this last game against Chicago, the midfield was really missing. So it was hard for a really transition from the defense to get into the offense in the first half. That's why we made a change in the second half. So I think going into Kansas City, obviously a tough atmosphere and a tough team to play against, I think defend first is going to be the plan here, and see what we can get on the break.
I heard you say before, a few days ago, that the transition from midfield to forward wasn't exactly what your side were looking for. As a forward, how frustrating is that for you?
I mean, obviously, if the midfield isn't there that day, it's going to be tough for you to get the ball. And luckily, the one time I did get the ball this last weekend, and then it ended up in the back of the net. But it's definitely frustrating because that's not always going to happen. You need a couple opportunities, and I think we were really just lucky to get a point. It was a really poor performance on our part, and it's something we need to fix.
And Jack, you're going up against the best defence in Major League Soccer, a defence that has been the best for the last few years. What are you expecting from Sporting KC this weekend?
Probably, just to come out and put a lot of pressure on us, and I think our record doesn't show as bad as the team is. That I think we're better than that, and I think Kansas City is going to come out and try to really just put us in our place. But like you said, the defense is really good. But I think the offense is a little underrated. We're going to have to really just kind of sit back and see what we can get on the break, because just because the defense, we're not going to be able to control the game for 90 minutes.
Jack, thank you for your company. Before we let you go, you've been in Montreal a few days. How's your French?
I've learned about like 2 words, but yes and no. But over time, I think it'll come. Everyone here speaks English as well, so it definitely makes it easier. But French is I'm gonna definitely learn it over the time while I'm here.
Jack, thank you very much for your time this evening. We'll see you Saturday.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jack.
It's Jack McInerney of the Montreal Impact. So, in the final segment of the show, boys, let's assess what's ahead for Sporting KC. Montreal Impact yet to win this season, Andy. But there are several individuals that could cause Sporting KC problems, aren't there?
Well, and we've talked about the impact here and there, kind of in the second segment of the show a few times this season, and my feeling, and I know you've kind of disagreed with me a little bit. It's just I just don't see a whole lot from them. Obviously Marco Di Vaio is a very good player. Felipe, pretty good player on his day, fairly inconsistent, and then beyond that, it's kind of a mixed bag of players, and they're mixing and matching a little bit, especially up top, and so obviously the addition of McInerney is a huge coup for Montreal. Andrew Wenger was never going to become the player, I should say, that they thought he would be when they drafted him first overall a couple seasons ago. And so, you're able to move him on and in my opinion, trade up and get a better player than Andrew Wenger. And I don't quite get that trade for Philadelphia, and so it's a definite improvement for this team. That forward line, one of the better duos in Major League Soccer, and so but they are similar players. They're very, very similar players. They both want to try and get in behind that back line, and so they can cause problems for a back line if they're making diagonal runs off of one another. As Matt Besler said earlier in the show in the first segment, you can watch one guy fairly easily, but if you've got 2 guys that work really well together and work off of one another, they can cause problems and kind of pull the defense one way, pull it the other way, and create space maybe for somebody like Felipe or Justin Mapp to kind of creep in and find a little bit of open area.
Council, the issue I've got with Montreal at the moment is every player that's done well for them over the past year is yet again another year older. Marco Di Vaio, Matteo Ferrari, Patrice Bernier. They're experienced players who can clearly offer a lot, but they need something else, don't they?
Yeah, is Nesta still playing too? It seems like it. But yeah, one thing that stood out to me is McInerney was very candid in his responses there, especially to their approach for this game coming up. He's just hammering the point that they're going to sit back and try to see what they can get on the counter. But the other thing is he pointed out how frustrated he was with the midfield play, especially in that last game, and how isolated he felt. So maybe that's a sign of, that do they have that dynamism in midfield? And as of right now, it doesn't look like that. And you definitely need it if you have 2 forwards who are they're not static per se, but they're not the crazy terrier type forward that's going to be hounding, and they're not going to drop deep and get the ball very often either. So you need something in midfield to create for these 2 poachers of forwards.
I liked what Jack McInerney said, where he kind of said, well, we didn't, Di Vaio and myself, we didn't get enough from the midfield behind us, and he's not sugarcoating things, and he's, he expects more of his teammates, and coming into a new situation, and just trying to fit in. I mean, that's a tough thing to do, and you do that, you maybe not call out guys on your team, but you kind of put them on notice a little bit in that way, then you let them know that you're serious, that you expect more from them, and that you're there to win. You're not just there because that's the team that's giving you a paycheck. And from a young player, especially, I like hearing that. Too much of the time, it's just like, well, we thought we played pretty well, and maybe we were unlucky.
Right?
No, they were not unlucky to draw that game. They were probably lucky to draw that game.
Well, you said that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I respect that. I respect that a lot.
The one thing I do think actually Marco De Valle will drop a little bit to receive the ball and play it over for McInerney several times. What about from a Sporting Kansas City point of view then, boys? Andy, I'll start with you before we go here. Changes? Obviously Rosell is suspended, so you'd expect Olam to come in?
Yeah, you would think so, unless Peter Vermes gets a little bit creative maybe, and he wants to drop Graham Zusi back into the midfield, and then Paulo Nagamura could be that real defensive midfielder that sits in front of the back. But I would imagine, yes, probably Lawrence Olam. The only problem with that is, at that point, you really leave yourself without a backup center back unless you're going to put Eric Palmer-Brown on the bench. I mean, will he be back in Kansas City by that point? Who knows? And so who's your backup center back at that point? Say one of those two guys.
1 minute.
A little bit of a knock or something. And so depth at the moment, for the moment, is going to be a little bit of an issue for Sporting Kansas City with Rosell out. But I think they've got enough to handle it and get past the impact.
Yeah, I think that week off, I think we'll see the effects of that. A big congested schedule at the beginning of the year. They get this week off. Beasler, of course, was touching on it in his interview, saying how refreshed they feel. So I think they're going to come out and they're going to press really well. And
30 seconds.
3 points for Sporting at home this weekend.
Yeah, if they don't come out flying from the start, it's all on them.
Well, do join us on SKC TV for Sporting KC against Montreal Impact, 7 p.m. with Jake Yardridge. Myself and Diego Gutierrez will have the call, thanks to Andy and Carter and Rob, our producer, as per usual. For all of your sport...
15.
Keep it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.